Good evening, and thank you so much for making the time to catch this show. The show is called This is the Day. My name is Medrin Nyambura. We are live on Family TV, also live on Family Radio. So today we talk about something that's supposed to be natural, sleep. You go to work, you get home, you eat, you sleep. But turns out it's not as natural as it seems to be, as we'll find out today with Dr. Gakuo Karuga. I almost called you Karuga Gakuo. You're like, no, Gakuo Karuga. Yes. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for making the time.
Thank you for inviting me.
So many people ask the question, how long should you sleep? Even I am asking.
Well, in terms of sleep, it depends on the age group.
Okay.
Yes. Maybe if you want to start with adults, then an adult should be able to sleep at least 6 to 8 hours a day. Mm-hmm. But in different age group, we can break it down. Like for neonates, which is less than 1 month, they should be able to sleep for 15 to 18 hours a day. So most of the time, they're actually asleep.
I miss that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So between 1 month and 1 year, they should be able to sleep for about 14 to 15 hours.
Okay.
Toddlers, that is 1 to 3 years, should sleep between 14 and 15 hours.
Really? But some of them wake up so early at 6, they sleep late with their moms, when their moms have come from work or their dads are coming in late.
Yes.
Do you think that affects their growth when they don't sleep enough?
Yes, it does affect, because you see, sleep is very important for development, not only physical but also mental, and also immune development. Also emotional development. Okay. So it's important that we get enough sleep. And it's actually something that happens a lot. Like, for example, even school-going children should be having at least 10 to 11 hours of sleep. Mm-hmm. And of course, this rarely happens because of our schedules, having to wake up early to go to school and coming home late. And so they don't actually get enough sleep.
Okay. Yeah. I'm thinking of those babies I see in the bus at 4 a.m. and I'm wondering, where are you going? You look like you're 4 years old. Yeah. Okay. So how do we define a sleeping disorder? Because for a very long time, people thought, okay, it's just a white thing. White people suffer from sleeping disorders. But it turns out even we suffer from that. So maybe define that for us.
Well, a sleeping disorder is where you don't get restful, adequate sleep. Mm-hmm. And there are different types of sleep disorders. In fact, up to about 70 different types of sleep disorders have been described. They're mainly categorized into 2 groups, which is one group which is known as dysomnias, which includes things like insomnia or narcolepsy, sleep apnea, and such things. And others where you actually sleep, but there are other activities going on, like bruxism or sleepwalking.
What do you mean by activities, Daktari?
For example, bruxism is where your children or other people grind their teeth while they're asleep.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
You've not heard that before?
No. Who's grinding their teeth if they're sleeping? Okay.
Yeah, that happens. And you can also have like sleepwalking, and where you're actually asleep, but you're performing some activities.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's talk about insomnia.
Yes.
Many people think creatives are the only people who go through this. They're night owls, they work at night when the moon is up. But what leads to insomnia?
So insomnia basically is getting inadequate or unrestful sleep despite the opportunity to do so. So it means that you actually have an opportunity to be in bed, to sleep, but you don't get enough or you don't sleep enough. Okay. There are various things that can cause this. Some of them are actually mood disorders. For example, anxiety or depression. If you have anxiety, what you have mostly is what you call initial insomnia. Okay. So initial insomnia means that you're in bed, you're trying to fall asleep, but the sleep is not coming. For depressive states, mostly is terminal insomnia, where you may wake up very early in the morning and you're not able to go back to sleep. At all? Yeah. Okay. So there are also other things that can cause insomnia, including stress, diet, and other things, yes. Diet is linked to your sleep? Yes. Okay. Okay, but of course, we're talking about things that are a bit unnatural, like things which are stimulants, nicotine, or caffeine. Okay, so substances that can cause you not to sleep. Yeah. Do you think our phones have caused insomnia? You purpose to sleep at 10, right? Then 1 a.m. you're still Googling a story. So do you think phones have interfered with that as well? Yes, I think phones are beginning to interfere with our lives directly. Some of the things, of course, sleep is one of them. So you find that you're in bed, but instead of falling asleep, you're on your phone.
Yes.
And this can cost you a lot of hours in terms of sleep, cumulatively.
Okay.
It can also affect other things like even going to the loo. Instead of doing your business in the loo, you're on the phone. Just as an example as well.
That's true. There's a father who confessed during one of the shows that he goes to the loo with his phone because that's the only time he has to himself. Let's talk about sleep apnea. When I found this, I thought, so there are people who sleep and they don't breathe for, is it minutes or seconds?
Seconds.
Okay.
Yes.
What does that mean to your body when you can't breathe for a few seconds?
Well, sleep apnea has two main divisions. That is caused in the brain, where the nerves that are supposed to stimulate your breathing are not firing, are not working very well. And there's the sleep apnea that occurs because of obstruction, which means that you're not able to breathe well. And this can happen in children and also in adults. So if you're not breathing when you're sleeping, it can affect many other things, especially things like blood pressure. You can become hypertensive if you're not getting quality sleep because you're unable to breathe. It can also make you add weight. So it can actually end up causing metabolic changes in your body.
You see, it's not the food. It's because I'm not sleeping. It's because I'm not sleeping. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And this is actually ignored quite a bit because you see, you find people who snore and they say that it's genetic, but it's actually not genetic.
Okay.
It's something that is or should be corrected.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's nothing like I snore because I'm just the way I'm just the way I am right now.
No, it should be assessed because there are different things that can cause you to snore. Blockages in the nose, in the throat, and for children, especially things like adenoids, which can cause difficulty breathing.
Okay. Yeah. Let me just ask Daktari, is there any connection between your weight and your snoring?
There is a connection between weight gain and poor sleep. Because actually sleep is important for metabolism. And in some people, if you're not able to breathe well or sleep well, it can actually make you gain weight.
Okay.
Yes.
I think people have found an excuse. Let me just ask this again. There's a time there was a child sleeping next to me and they were snoring, but when you put a pillow, then they sleep better. They stop snoring. Is there any connection to that? Is it that obstruction is not happening?
There's obstruction, but it depends on the site of obstruction. That means that when you put the pillow, you're able to alleviate the obstruction. Okay. But generally, you should not need to be able to. You should not need to put someone in a position to be able to sleep because the breathing passage should be open for them to be able to sleep well. Yeah. Okay, I hear you. Let's talk about narcolepsy. I think I suffer from this one. Listen, I can sleep anywhere. Put me, at a waiting lounge, I will sleep. Put me on a chair, anywhere, I will sleep. So why do people fall asleep uncontrollably during the day? Well, in narcolepsy, it's generally when you're falling asleep in places where you're not supposed to be falling asleep, like when you're working, when you're even driving, and it can be quite dangerous. But this is a disorder where you have a part of your sleep cycle is not present. Okay. So because when you're falling asleep, there should be an area where you're slowly drifting to sleep. But that one is eliminated and you go straight into what is known as rapid eye movement sleep. Okay. So that means that they don't have any preliminaries before you fall asleep. You just fall asleep? Yes, go down. Point to self. I just fall asleep. Does that have anything to do with your mood, emotionally, mentally? Does it affect that? Because when I'm stressed, I sleep a lot. But when I'm doing okay, you've worked out, you've eaten well, you sleep better. Does it have any connection? Yes. You see, there's something known as sleep hygiene, and that is like if you're having a normal routine, you're having a certain time you fall asleep, you go to bed every day. Yeah. You're doing your regular exercise, you're eating well, and you're eating regularly, then you'll be able to sleep well. But if you're having stress and you're having factors in your life that are affecting your sleep or even mood disorders, then you will have disordered sleep. So at night you may not be able to sleep, but then during the day you're oversleepy. Okay. But yet when you go back to bed, you're not able to sleep. Okay. Yes. For narcolepsy, how do you know you have it? Do you need to get it diagnosed? Because should I see a doctor? Should I come see you is the question, because I fall asleep everywhere. When do you know you should see a doctor? But first you should ensure that you're getting that proper sleep hygiene.
Okay.
Meaning that you're setting the right time to fall asleep, to go to bed, and you're giving yourself adequate time to sleep. That is at least 6 to 8 hours for an adult. And of course, you're eliminating the other things that are preventing proper sleep, like caffeine, nicotine, alcohol. And if those things are not working, then you need to have an assessment and see what else could be causing problems. Yes.
Okay. There's one that we all mentioned in high school. Every time you are caught sleeping, you said, I have sleeping sickness. That's all we ever said. But people talk about it as a joke, but it's actually serious. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, sleeping sickness is actually an infection by, by a parasite known as trypanosomiasis. So this is transmitted by tsetse flies. Okay. Yeah. So a tsetse fly bite can give you trypanosomiasis, which is a protozoa that goes into your bloodstream. Initially, what you get is fever, malaise, unwellness. But with time, like maybe 3 weeks to months, this actually enters into your nervous system, into your brain, and now this can cause sleep disturbance.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very disturbing when you think about it. Is it fatal, this infection?
It can be fatal if it's not treated.
Okay.
Yes, but there's treatment available, so this is something that can be sorted out.
Okay. When you hear that it happens in 36 sub-Saharan countries in Africa, are we in trouble?
Yes, but a lot has been done in terms of control of the vector, that is the tsetse fly. So this has actually reduced quite a bit. Okay. Yes.
Okay. What's the difference between that and narcolepsy?
So in sleeping sickness, which is the infection, so first of all, it's an infection.
It's an infection, yes.
Yeah. One of the things that happens is that it disrupts your normal circadian rhythm. So circadian rhythm is where you're awake during the day and you're asleep during the night. Okay. But because this infection is affecting your brain and your the sleep pattern is affected. So actually you may end up being awake at night and being asleep during the day, or a pattern that is not normal. Okay. Whereas narcolepsy is basically inability to, or an urge to sleep when you're not supposed to be sleeping during the day. Okay. Yeah, but it's because there's a part of the development of sleep cycle that is missing in that person. Yeah.
Okay. If you're probably wondering when you snooze your alarm and you start praying and you never say amen because you fall asleep, that's not a disorder. And I'm just laughing because my guest asked me whether we are going to sing that song. That's so funny. Actually, we don't sing, we just listen. You're well? You're still doing good? So I have a question for you. Relentless leg syndrome. I have slept with children in my bed. We sleep normally at 10 or 9, and then when you wake up in the morning, their foot is in your mouth. Does that have anything to do with relentless leg syndrome?
Restless leg syndrome?
Oh, sorry, restless, sorry. Well, restless, yes.
Well, there's a restless leg syndrome where, the person feels as if there are pins and needles in their legs or hands and they keep moving around. Okay. But remember, all of us sleep differently. So the movements that you make when you're sleeping are different. So there are people who move about more than others. So don't be surprised if someone's foot is in your mouth. It's not that they're putting... well, it's accidental because of the movements that are happening during the sleep. So, again, children, especially when they sleep with somebody, they also have more restless sleep because every time you move, they also kind of wake up. Oh, so they have many awakenings during the night. So, I know ideally children should sleep alone, actually even from 3 to 4 months. Okay. Yeah.
I'm talking about big children right now. Does this happen for adults as well, the restless leg syndrome?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. But this is, again, a subjective feeling that you have pins and needles in your feet or your legs. So you keep moving.
How do you sort that?
When you're still asleep.
How do you help yourself? Because if you're feeling pins at night, it means you're not sleeping.
Yes, you don't sleep very comfortably or very restfully.
Okay.
Yes.
How do you sort that?
Well, these are conditions that can be sorted out from medication,
Yeah.
also counseling, and also adjusting the type of sleep you have and how
Okay.
you sleep. Yes.
Okay. Hi, let's get to this one. Shift work sleep disorder. My producers, some of them suffer from this, where on Monday you wake up at 5, you go to work by 7. On Tuesday you wake up at 2, you're supposed to be in work by 7 p.m. What does that do to your sleeping pattern?
Yeah, again, you see what we're discussing about sleep. In fact, maybe we should have even defined sleep initially, because because sleep is something that is recurrent and ideally should be at probably the same time.
Okay.
And you should also have about the same amount of time of sleep every day. And this enables you now to have a proper day as well. But if your pattern has been changed because you have to be working at times when you're supposed to be asleep, then this can actually affect your circadian rhythm. And circadian rhythm is, yes, it's actually a rhythm that is controlled by the higher centers in the brain. So you have the pineal gland and the hypothalamus, which control your sleep cycles.
Okay.
But if you're forcibly changing that cycle, then again, you're going to have problems.
What would be the effect of that?
So when you have a change in the circadian rhythm, then during the day you're either feeling very tired, your mood is down, you're restless, you can be agitated. And also now at night when you're supposed to be sleeping, you may be unable to fall asleep.
Okay. You know, I'm thinking of countries like the US or Canada where they have a 24-hour working economy, and there are people who get jobs, you know, sporadically. On Monday you're working at 2, so that affects how you even feel normally, how you operate, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think in the long term it can actually affect your behavior, your mood,
Okay.
and can give you issues with anxiety and depression. Yeah.
Wow. You talked depression.
Yes, it can.
Okay. Why is that? Sorry, I'm just thinking, you know, depression comes from your thoughts, you're sad and all that, so sleep has a connection with that as well.
Sleep and mood disorders are actually very interlinked.
Okay.
So mood disorders will affect sleep. So you'll have insomnia or difficulty falling asleep. And also sleep can affect mood, because if you don't sleep well, then again you'll be having problems with your moods.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what leads to depression. Yes. Now, there's one of the jobs that's enviable. That's being the president. I would want to be president without all the chaos. But my worry is the jet lag. Brother is in China today. He goes to France tomorrow. And I'm saying it's a miracle he stays awake. So maybe just define what jet lag is. Many people think wanasema tu hivyo because they went somewhere. But what is jet lag?
So jet lag again is a disturbance in the circadian rhythm, or the normal rhythm of sleep and wake cycle. And this happens especially when you travel across time zones.
Okay.
So normally if you travel north and south without crossing time zones, it may not affect you much.
Okay.
But when you cross time zones, then it affects your circadian rhythm. And especially if you travel eastwards, because that shortens your day.
Okay.
And shortening of the day affects the circadian rhythm worse or more than lengthening of the day.
Okay.
So traveling westwards might be less detrimental to somebody.
So west, the US?
Yes, but you remember you'll have to come back. So
you'll still have to come back, okay.
So you'll travel east again.
Okay.
Now, in terms of jet lag, they say that every time zone you cross, you'll take about a day to recover from it. Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Okay.
Although there's some programs which have been developed to help you recover quickly. So like you expose yourself to sunlight, you keep yourself awake for different hours and asleep for different hours, so they can be able to go back to the normal rhythm.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me ask this question. Does it make a difference if you're using a connection flight or if you're using a direct flight? Is there a difference? Because maybe you get there faster?
Yeah. Well, as I said earlier, when you travel eastwards, when you lose time, it can be worse. So if you travel faster, you actually probably lose more time.
Okay.
So stopping over may help you recover better. Yes.
And while you're there, expose yourself to the sun.
Yes, to the sun.
Okay, I hear you. And maybe the last, I wish we had more time to look at all the disorders, the 70 of them. But let's talk about the delayed sleeping disorder, where you can't sleep early at all. Priska Aroko. She sleeps at 1. Are there people who innately cannot sleep early?
Yes, and you see, this is again a disturbance of the rhythm of sleep and the wake cycle. So if you end up sleeping late and you are unable to fall asleep until quite late, like you're saying 1 a.m., most likely you wake up late as well.
Okay.
unless something wakes you up. So you probably end up waking up at 8, 9 a.m. And that is now a disorder as well.
Okay. Do people understand the effects of that? Or it's the same thing, your mood is weird when you wake up in the morning. Are these the same effects?
Yes, these are things that can affect your day-to-day activities because you'll be unable to concentrate well. You'll be able to, your mood will be affected.
Okay.
You can have a short fuse because you're irritable. So actually, as I said earlier, sleep is very important for your daytime activities.
Okay. There are people who say I work better at night. So they sleep during the day and they work at night. Is there any relation to sleep to that?
Well, there are those people who are known to be what you call night owls, and there are those who are larks. So larks are those who perform better when they wake up early or early in the morning. Whereas there are those who are able to push later into the night, but will still have to wake up later.
Okay, in the day.
Yes.
Okay. Can you train yourself to be like that?
Yes, you can actually train yourself. It's something that you can learn. It's something that you can develop. And make it a rhythm or a routine.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's also the natural part where
Yes.
you're a night owl or you're a lark.
Okay. So there's something natural to do with it. There are people who perform better at night.
Yes.
Because I'm thinking there are people who are working in banks, they're working in corporate Kenya, and they're thinking, I'm not supposed to be here by 8. If only we could turn the systems to work for everybody. There's something you mentioned at the beginning, the sleeping cycle, the stages of that. Maybe take us through that. How many stages you're supposed to go through?
Well, the sleep cycle, it's about 90-minute cycle, and there are 2 main stages. One we call rapid eye movement sleep, and then there's non-rapid eye movement sleep.
Okay.
So during rapid eye movement sleep, as it suggests, your eye is actually moving and quite active.
Okay.
And your muscle tone is almost the same as when you're awake. Also, your heart rate, your blood pressure, your temperature is about the wake, similar to when you're awake.
Okay.
And this part of the sleep cycle is what is thought to be important for emotional development and emotional stability.
Okay.
So people who have maybe depressive or anxiety disorders may have a problem with the REM sleep. Then we have the other non-rapid eye movement sleep, which is divided into 4 different stages. And this is where you have the deep sleep. So during this sleep cycle, your temperature goes down, your heart rate goes down, your movements reduce, your muscle tone is reduced. And this is thought to be now the most restful sleep.
Okay.
And also the sleep that boosts your immunity. Yeah. During rapid eye movement sleep is when is also known as a dream sleep. That's when you dream.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. You know people who sleep, you talk to them at say 11:15, and by 11:18 they're in deep sleep. Has they skipped the rapid eye movement stage?
Well, actually, sleep has it takes about a latency, about 6 to 12 minutes to fall asleep.
Okay.
So it's not, normally when you just enter bed, you don't fall asleep like immediately. It takes a few minutes for you to fall into the different stages and then fall asleep.
Okay.
But as we said earlier, sometimes you can have a disorder where you have narcolepsy, where those stages are eliminated and you just fall straight
You
into
just sleep. Okay, I hear you. There's something you talked about, mental wellness. So what can we do to make sure mentally you're okay? That way you can sleep. Because for people who use their mind a lot in their work, so you're seated at a desk but you're thinking constantly, how do you make sure that does not affect how you sleep?
So mental wellness, again, we have to think about the things we do during the day, make sure we eat properly, you avoid the substances that will cause problems or disturbances in sleep and also mood, and exercise regularly, and then develop a timetable for sleep.
Okay.
So that by a certain time you're in bed and you sleep for a certain amount of hours, and when you wake up, then you'll be able to perform well.
Okay. Something that happens every day in the matatus and the buses, people sleep in the bus. Does that add to any productive sleep? I'm asking for the Kenyans, y'all. The people who sleep in the buses because you haven't slept enough.
Yes, and most of the times this is a sign of or a symptom of a sleep disorder in terms of not getting enough sleep in the night. So you'll fall asleep in places where probably you're not supposed to be sleeping, and the sleep there is normally not a restful sleep.
Yep, because you'll hit a bump.
And it's noisy. You're not going to sleep for enough to even go through one cycle.
Okay.
Of the sleep cycle, so 90 minutes, and probably there's too much happening around you.
Okay.
So actually, even for sleep and also for children, you need to prepare a place for people to sleep which is conducive.
Okay.
So a quiet environment, dark, and so that there's no much disturbance when you're sleeping. Yeah.
Okay. You said something about kids, and I was watching a show where they talked about don't give kids anything that's mentally stimulating an hour plus to bedtime. Why is that important, and what do you mean by stimulating, maybe gadgets and all that? Define that.
Yeah, I would even say more than an hour. Especially for something that they're ingesting, I would say even up to 6 hours before they sleep.
Okay.
So, I mean, of course, we don't expect children to be taking coffee, but one of the things is like coffee or energy drinks or drinks that will cause stimulation. Then also very stimulating games or shows or movies or whatever they're watching. So those ones may be at least 2 hours before they go to bed, so that they're not very excited or excitable before they go to bed. Yeah.
Okay, and again, this one is for the working class. If you're busy Monday to Friday, can you plan for a good sleeping day when you catch up with everything you missed out on during the week? Is it possible?
Sleep should be something that is repeated daily.
Okay.
So for you to have proper health, and both mental, physical, emotional health, then you should be having sleep regularly.
Okay.
Postponing sleep to a weekend will not sort you out.
Compounded sleep.
Yeah, although your body actually tries to catch up with this lost sleep.
Okay.
But this is something that should be happening more repeatedly.
Okay.
Rather than waiting for one day to sleep.
My friend, do you work in Kenya? You sleep on Saturday because Monday to Friday you're dealing with people on the road. When we come back, we'll be telling you how to improve on your sleep for you and your family. And also, does co-sleeping actually help? Single ministry hisi. Let me tell you, when you think about sleep, I'm starting to feel guilty because I do maybe 4-5 hours, and that's how I get by, and that explains weight gain. So sitaki kuuliza maswali. But Daktari, let me ask, does it help if you sleep with someone? So let's say you get married. Why are you squinting?
Okay,
no, if you have someone in bed with you, do you
Yes.
sleep better? Is there a chance of sleeping better?
Well, in terms of if it's your life partner, yes,
Yes.
I think it does help you sleep better, and I think it can also correct some of your sleep disorders. Because if you're sleeping very few hours,
Yes.
and hopefully you get a partner who likes sleeping, then you may end up sleeping the proper 6 to 8 hours that you need.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, people make fun of the single people during July all the way to August because they're thinking, that's cold. You know, you move to the other side of the bed and it's ice cold. So it might help if the other person has better sleeping patterns.
Yes, it will help you at least to regularize yours,
Okay.
especially if you're not sleeping enough or you're sleeping very late or especially. But, when you sleep very late, your body is trying to push you to wake up later so you can get your full dose of sleep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I hear you. Let's talk about co-sleeping.
Yes.
And moms love to sleep with your babies. Maybe when they're months old, they're in your bed, and then afterwards you take them to their baby cot. Is this advisable, and when does it stop?
Okay, no, this is a bit controversial because there are also other things that are of concern, especially things like sudden infant death syndrome. And thus, we find many parents want to sleep with their children so they can observe them, monitor them, yes, and make sure that they don't end up with any problems. Yeah? But children, when they sleep with an adult or sleeping with other people, it also affects their sleep.
Okay.
So children are not able to sleep continuously because of they can hear other sounds, they can hear movements in the room. So they have many more awake moments during sleep. And all of us have those awake moments when you're sleeping and then you turn and you slightly awake. But especially for children, when they're sleeping with other people in the room, then they will have many of those.
Okay.
And that will affect their sleep pattern.
Okay. So kids can hear when they're asleep?
No, but if there's movement in the room or there's someone snoring, it'll affect whether they'll be able to sleep continuously and sleep well.
Okay. But actually there are babies who like joking. So you're carrying them like this, right? And then you put them, they are asleep in your arms. Then you put them in the cot, they're awake. And then you lift them up again, they're asleep. Does that have anything to do with sleeping disorders?
Now, for children, you need to actually develop a pattern or train them to be able to sleep well.
Okay.
And it's very important actually to train children from very early so that even when they grow up, they'll be able to have a proper sleep pattern. So there's some things which you can do to be able to help them to be able to sleep well.
Okay.
One is actually from about 3 to 4 months, they can be able to sleep in their own room and sleep through most of the night, actually up to 8 to 10 hours in the night. So first is to put them in their own room. make sure that the room is warm and there's no light, there's no noise, so it's quiet and dark. Then you develop a pattern, a routine. So maybe you can start by taking a bath. Then after the bath, maybe you sing some songs, read a bedtime story, and then you put them in bed when they are awake.
Oh,
and then,
okay.
Yes, and you're talking about from 4 months.
Yes.
So you put them in bed when they're awake, not to fall asleep in your arms. So that if they have an awake moment during their sleep, they already know they're in bed. You know, what happens is that if they fall asleep in your arms, when they have that awake moment, then they realize they're not in your arms anymore. So then they'll wake up and start crying.
Okay.
But if they already knew they're in bed when they're sleeping, then they're unlikely to cry because they already knew they're in bed.
Okay.
So once you develop that cycle, then you put them to bed when they're awake. And then you leave them to sleep. Initially, there's a way in which you can be able to slowly develop them their sleep pattern. Initially, you can stay in the room and wait for them to fall asleep. You can tell them it's time to sleep until they fall asleep. Initially, they may cry, but
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
but they'll start learning that this is sleep time.
Okay.
And so now when you put them in bed, when they're awake, they'll fall asleep on their own.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Their
ideally, they should
mothers-
be able to fall asleep on their own.
Their mothers thinking, Doctor, you don't understand.
I
Unless
know,
I
I
hold
know,
them,
I
they do
know.
not sleep.
Yes,
So
but-
train them through the crying, through the squealing, train them.
It's difficult. Okay. Of course, when your child is crying and it's very difficult to resist to pick them up. Actually, in fact, there's some sleep training programs where they tell you to actually pick them up, console them, and then put them back to bed.
Okay.
But the main thing is that they should fall asleep in the bed rather than in your arms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you. Are babies prone to sleeping disorders? Some of the complex ones that we've talked about, are they prone to that?
Yes, and it's quite surprising that you'll find that up to 25 to 50% of children actually have sleeping disorders. Many of them are things like sleep apnea, of course,
Yeah.
because of obstruction
Okay.
or blockage. But they could also have others, which are minor, things like enuresis, which is bedwetting at night, or sleep talking, sleepwalking.
Okay.
Yeah. But again, this is something that is to be developed again through a proper sleep pattern.
So, Dr. let me ask you this question. On a bad day, you pop a sleeping pill and you sleep better. Is that advisable?
No, it's not advisable. Actually, sleep should be natural.
Okay.
Sleep should be natural as possible. And if you're actually doing the right things during the day, you should be able to sleep well and naturally.
Okay.
Sleeping pills give you an unnatural sleep. So even as you may black out completely and then wake up in the morning, but most of the times you'll have a hangover because of using a sleeping pill, meaning that you did not actually sleep properly. You did not go through the normal cycles of sleep as you are asleep.
Okay.
So sleeping pills should not be a way to sleep. And another thing about sleeping pills is that they are addictive. So you can use them maybe for 1 or 2 days, but if you use them regularly, you can get addicted to them.
Okay. Let's talk about the people who say, I sleep better after a glass of wine. Any relations to alcohol and better sleep? I know I'm not saying you drink, I'm just asking for the few. Any relation?
Alcohol in itself is neurodepressant, meaning that it makes you sedative. It's a sedative also. A glass of wine is not bad. Yeah, a glass of wine is okay. I mean, in fact, they say a glass of wine is healthy. It will give you more cardiac health. It will help you sleep better, digest better. That's fine. But the problem is now if you go beyond the limit. So you take maybe 4 glasses, 5 glasses of wine, or whatever alcohol you're taking. And that one, when you sleep, first of all, the first few hours of sleep will not be natural sleep because the body will be working very hard to try and metabolize the alcohol.
Okay.
Then again, you have depressed your brain activity because of the alcohol. And in fact, research has shown that when you're asleep, there's a lot of brain activity that's happening.
Okay.
And this is important for memory and also for developing emotional stability and such things. So when you depress all these things using alcohol, then there'll be some effect.
Okay, I hear you. I was telling you that there's somebody in my life who says a cup of milk or a cup of hot chocolate and they sleep better. True or false?
I think that's fine. When you take a cup of something warm, it also warms up your body.
Okay.
And remember, when you're trying to sleep, it's nice to be in a warm environment, so you'll be able to fall asleep easier and sleep better.
Okay.
So that is healthy and safe.
Yeah.
Anything
warm is okay. The last one, heaters. There are people who sleep with heaters, especially when it's cold. Of course, we don't advocate for the jiko. We've seen how that goes. But for the heaters, is it okay to sleep with those on?
Well, you're trying to create a warm environment, and this can be useful, especially for children.
Okay.
You need the room to be about 19 to 22 degrees centigrade for children to sleep well. So heaters per se are not a problem, especially in very cold nights, just to keep the room warm. But you have to make sure that you don't go too high, which will now affect again your sleep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not too hot? You said 19 for kids.
Between 19 to 22 degrees centigrade for children.
Okay. Yeah. You know, some of us create 19 degrees with the number of blankets we use. Yani, I have like 4 blankets, a duvet in there, 2 pillows.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe now let's tell people, how do you achieve better sleep? Mimi nataka kulala. I want to sleep better. Because sometimes, Daktari, let me give you perspective. You work in, say, Westlands, right?
Yeah.
You live in Embakasi. So you get a bus at 5:30 in the morning. You get to town at, say, give or take 6:40. You get to your office by 7:30. So you've spent about 2 hours in the morning trying to get to the office. You spent 2 hours in the evening trying to get home if it doesn't rain.
Yeah.
So literally, you have no time to sleep. So how do you make sure that even in all this madness, you actually make adequate time to sleep?
To be honest, because of our lifestyles and, of course, what we call development, we end up,
Just
we end up
development. Okay, go ahead.
It's developing in quotes because the things which are not developing, they're actually regressing. Like quality of life reduces. Especially now, if you spend so much time traveling, you spend 3 to 4 hours in a day on the road. So quality of life is reduced in terms of time you have at home, time you have to sleep. So the best thing to do, ideally, is to try and find a place or to work in a place which is close to where you live.
Okay.
So that you can increase the amount of time you spend at home. Because a third of your life you'll spend asleep. And hopefully you'll be able to find that 6 to 8 hours.
6 to 8 hours, yes.
To be in bed.
Okay.
Yes. So the best thing to do is to develop a pattern. So first try and stay close to where you work so that you can be home quicker.
Okay.
Then develop a pattern so that by this time every day you've already had your dinner. And first of all, dinner should not be so heavy. It should be a light meal. Actually, if you have a very heavy meal before you sleep, it can affect your sleep.
Okay.
So you take a light meal before you sleep, maybe some water, get into bed, make sure it's quiet and dark and warm.
Okay.
Yes, and then you give yourself at least 8 hours to sleep, 6 to 8 hours.
No ugali at night?
Preferably,
I'm looking at my brothers who eat ugali at night.
If you're going to have ugali, you can have a small ugali. But if you have the whole packet of unga, then it's going to be a problem.
My producer is telling me because I eat a lot of githeri, I stop eating githeri before sleeping. Please leave me alone, Mr. Producer. Chana na mimi. Let me ask this as the last question. Oversleeping. Aki me daktari oversleep over the weekend. I catch up with my sleep kapsa, but you say even that 10 to 14 hours is not good for you. Why?
Yes. So sleep should be between, for an adult, 6 to 8 hours. Less than that, you'll have some issues that will come up. And even more than that, you'll have issues. Because it'll affect your metabolism. So if you sleep for more than 8 hours every day, then it'll affect your metabolism. And you may end up now also adding weight because of that. Or you may end up with other metabolic problems. So the main thing is to find a balance where you can be able to have your actual 6 to 8 hours without doing too much and too little.
Okay.
Again, you cannot postpone sleep to say that you're going to sleep over the weekend.
Okay.
So it should be something that is regular.
Okay. Yeah. I hear you. Daktari, thank you so much for making the time. Appreciate it. I will try and sleep better. Hopefully you do as well. You know, in our industry, people here sleep at 1. Even the cameraman behind the camera, you sleep at 1. I know you very well. Watu wanalala saa saba, they come in grumpy, but we hear you will sleep better. So I hope you've learned something. I hope you sleep better as well. I'm going to try and do that and move closer to the office. Pressure. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Medrin Nyambura.